This episode of the FireDawg Podcast is supported by Roll Call Coins. Founded by a 24-year Air Force firefighter veteran, they understand that a coin represents more than just an event. It represents a story. Using 3D modeling and custom textures, Roll Call has moved beyond generic designs to create premium, standout coins. Whether you're honoring a department or branding a business, they make the process effortless. Start your design today at rollcallcoins.com and let your coin stand out in the stack. This episode of the FireDawg Podcast is supported by AOS, the one-stop shop for firefighting equipment compliance built for the Department of Defense. At AOS, they help military fire departments stay mission-ready with customized programs that bundle everything from SCBAs and compressors to hoses, ladders, PPE care, rescue gear, and more. Their teams work worldwide, so whether you're stateside or overseas, they've got you covered. For all your firefighting equipment compliance needs, visit aosservicesinc.com to learn more.
This is the FireDawg Podcast.
The views and opinions presented on today's episode are those of the speaker and do not necessarily represent the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.
Welcome, my name is Matt Wilson, and thank you for listening to episode 61 of the FireDawg Podcast. In this episode, I'm joined with former Air Force firefighter Chris Lopardi, whose story goes well beyond the uniform. Many of you may remember Chris from our Coffee Break episode 3 in 2020, where he shared the story of losing his son Mason and the profound impact that loss had on his life. Today, Chris reflects on how that experience shaped his perspective and influenced his transition out of the Air Force. We also talk about preparing for life after the military, why transition planning needs to start earlier than most people think, what to focus on, and how military and fire service skills translate into meaningful civilian careers. Chris now works in environmental health and safety, and he shares what life looks like in his new role. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the FireDawg Podcast for a second time, Chris Lopardi. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, brother. Good to have you on again, another two-time guest for us.
Oh, appreciate it. I always love the podcast. Been listening since the beginning, and glad to be here and share what I know.
Yeah, glad to have you on as well, brother. And to pick your brain a little bit, someone who just transitioned out, has some experience in Air Force Fire Service, transitioned into what I believe would be a unique career field, right? Something a little different than the fire service, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think this wasn't my original career path. I'll tell you that right now. So
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize it's even out there. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good topic for today.
Here's a question for you, maybe getting a little ahead of myself. Was it something that was even on your radar?
So it didn't actually really come on my radar until about 2 years out from when I was thinking about maybe retiring. And I happened to just go on LinkedIn and do a search and just thinking, for the future and what did I want to do? And it popped up, and that's where it all began. I started digging deeper, and, I was actually shocked that emergency planning and preparedness is a big part of it as well. And that's where I kind of got drawn into it.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's a common theme, it seems, in the conversations I have in some podcasts, that you just don't know what opportunities lie in front of you.
Right.
And the best way to prepare for a future beyond the military, future beyond the fire service, if that's something that you pursue, is to just do those things that you like to do, have an aim towards something that you think you would enjoy, get the certifications, get the education related to that field, and just kind of see what happens as time moves forward, you know what I mean? And see what opportunities are presented in front of you.
Definitely. Yeah. I think for me, it really began after losing my son Mason. My son Mason passed away in 2020. I was active duty at the time, and from there I took humanitarian orders up to Dover and joined the fire department there. Great team. They really took me in, and but we had Mason buried back home in Buffalo, New York, and I knew basically my fire career was over at that point. We wanted to go back home and be close to where he was buried, and I had to pivot because my dream, like a lot of people's dream when they're getting out, is okay, I'll get out and I'll go find a federal job being a firefighter somewhere. We'll move wherever as a family. It didn't matter. But after losing him, had to pivot, had to be flexible, had to start thinking outside the box. Okay, I've been preparing my whole career to continue on, be a fire chief one day. That was the ultimate goal. And that's not the dream anymore now. I mean, that dream is over. So how can I still use all these skills and abilities that I've learned over the years being in the military and being part of an amazing FireDawg world and take that to the next level? And that's where the EHS career field jumped out to me. So environmental health and safety, started doing some research, and here I am today, part of an amazing company, part of an aerospace company. So I still feel like I'm delivering for the mission, still able to help people in terms of getting necessary parts out to the field, and I'm keeping people safe at the same time, just like I did when I was a fire dog, which is super important to me.
Yeah, man, I look forward to getting into it and kind of diving into how you transitioned into that and how you prepared for it, and of course highlighting your son Mason.
Yeah.
Kind of what you do to honor him. You shared the story in Coffee Break episode number 3, and I went and looked back. I went and listened back, and I'm like, man, this was only a 12-minute episode. So I look forward to giving you a little bit more opportunity to talk about him and to talk about everything that you've been through. So let's get into it, man. Let's first start and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the guest. Tell us who you are, how long you're in the Air Force, tour of the bases you were stationed at, whatever you'd like to share.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me on. My name's Chris Lopardi. I'm a retired senior master sergeant, fire dog for the majority of my career. Last 2 years, I did a stint with the IG office at Dover Air Force Base. My duty locations were Little Rock. I did an instructor stint over at Goodfellow, went to Eielson, down to Eglin, back to Eielson, Mountain Home, where my son passed away, and then humanitarian over to Dover, and that's where I ended up retiring. 2 tours to Iraq, 1 over to Oman, and loved my career, loved my life in the military. And to be honest, if my son didn't pass, there's no way I would have retired. I would have stayed until 30. I loved it that much. So that's a little bit about me. After I got out of the military, I went into this EHS world. Company took a chance on me, and I love it. It's been great. Perfect career in terms of what I needed for myself and my family. And I'm really looking forward to kind of giving everyone a little idea of what the EHS world is, because it's not something that a lot of firefighters think about, but we have a lot of the skills necessary to be part of the EHS career. And if you're thinking, maybe I don't want to be on shift anymore, or I need a different change of scenery, but you have all those skills, the EHS world is perfect for you.
Yeah, we're talking about public safety, right? Firefighters are public servants. They provide for public safety, and EHS, environmental health and safety, is in the same category, just in a different way, right?
Correct. Yeah, same thing. A lot of similarities. A lot of things that I do on a daily basis deal with emergency preparedness, electrical safety, confined space safety, hot work safety, just general safety in a manufacturing plant. But it's the same idea, right? Just like when we're going to the scene, we want to make sure everyone's safe, doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's what I'm doing in the manufacturing world. I'm making sure people are following OSHA laws, helping them out with whatever they need, making sure they have the correct PPE, tools, and equipment to get the job done, those types of tasks. And, um, you know, being a fire dog is an amazing career, but some of us can't do it forever, especially sometimes your body breaks down a little bit. You're not able to keep up with that physical part anymore. This is great too. I mean, it's a good mix of getting out on the floor and interacting with employees on a regular basis, and also getting all the desk work done that you need to get done. A lot of regulations and rules you have to follow, and you have to document it all. You have a lot of reporting to federal agencies that you have to do. It ties in perfectly as you're taking that next step.
Yeah, it's a topic that maybe, or a career path that maybe doesn't interest many of our firefighters. We like to get dirty. We like to pull hose. That's kind of the nature of the type A personality that attracts to being a firefighter, right? So I can completely understand if this isn't in your lane, but just stick with us, hear us out. There could be a time in your future where, like you said, maybe you're not physically, I don't want to say capable, but you're not at your best physically, and there's something else that your talents, can bring to the table. I like to think of it as so when we respond as firefighters, it's we're in a reactive posture, right? Something bad happened. Somebody called us to fix their problem, right? Or to get them to the hospital or to put their fire out. In the environmental health and safety world, you're moving way upstream to prevent things from happening altogether, right? So if you are concerned about public safety, you should be concerned about environmental health and safety, or you should be of interest to you. It's something that, again, maybe not get people excited, but incredibly important.
Yeah, I'll never say that people love the idea of making a career change from something so exciting as being a firefighter over to EHS. There is a difference. There's no doubt about it. And I'd be lying if I didn't say there's parts of the fire department that I miss every single day. I wish I was still part of your guys' world every single day. But I can honestly say too, I'm in my mid 40s now. Um, as my career keeps progressing on, I see a path forward with this, and it's great to help somebody on maybe not at such an emergency level, right? You're not helping someone in that chaos of the moment. You're helping someone um, with a problem that they just can't solve. They can't think outside the box, and you bring another skill set in terms of, hey, have we thought about it like this? Maybe we can try this route. And in doing so, you're keeping them safe. You're making sure they're going home every single day. And uh, it's kind of, you don't get the glory that you get as a firefighter, but you're doing the right thing and you're really keeping people safe at the end of the day. And they're going home to their families and loved ones because of the hard work that you're putting in.
Yeah, I love that, man. I do. Nobody wants to see catastrophic injury or trauma on the work site. Flipping a forklift, things falling off shelves, those kind of things. Like, oh man, I love it. It's thankless work. It really is. Like you said,
Yeah.
you're not. It's not a glorious job, and you're not necessarily labeled as a hero, but you're doing thankless work behind the scenes to make sure that people get home. So I love that.
Right. And the EHS world is just like the fire department world. You're a jack of all trades, master of none. You dabble in a little bit of everything. Um, so on the team that I'm part of, my boss, she is very environmentally strong. She knows all the environmental rules and regulations. My coworker, she's really strong with electrical safety and everything that's part of that. I have another coworker who's really strong in construction safety. Obviously, I deal a lot with the emergency side, but also, we have experience with confined space emergencies, so I deal with a lot of the confined space aspects here. But even though I don't specialize in, let's say, electrical safety or environmental, I dabble in all of them, and that's the best part too, is I'm constantly learning. I have a great team that's constantly teaching me, and I'm teaching them what I know too about the emergency response side and emergency preparedness side. So it's a great way to broaden your horizons and learn a whole new language per se, something that you've never had before, and you have the skill set for it. When you're at the firehouse, right, there's programs everywhere, right? PPE program, respiratory program, all those different types of programs that are being managed, and you're managing them. And the same exact thing happens in the EHS side. You're going to be given a bunch of different programs to manage, make better. Um, and being part of the military, you bring a whole nother way of thinking that the civilian side is not used to. And, you know, bringing those ideas up and just shooting for the stars has been awesome. Our team has really grown because all of us are able to work together, bringing our different ideas together. And, it's just been a great experience. And being that you're able to manage all those programs now, when you get into the EHS side, it's the exact same thing. It's not as hard as you would think it is. A lot of people are I was intimidated going into it. That was my first time going into EHS when I got my job when I was getting out. And I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. I was shooting from the hip, hoping that I wasn't going to get fired. And but you're able to take all those skills you have from every single day, and you'll be successful with it if you use the skills you've learned.
Talk to me about what perspective a military member brings to an organization like this as compared to a civilian that you highlighted on it a bit.
Yeah, I want to say, we we're very used to like orderly rules, regulations, and being on the civilian side, I'll say that it feels a lot more. I don't want to say wishy-washy, but almost like um, we're used to the structure, and they're more flexible all the time with everything. And it was actually a really big adjustment for me, especially with like order and discipline. I would say. Uh, I'll say that on the civilian side, I was not expecting it to be so maybe free and wide open, whereas, we have very specific rules we have to follow, and that was just an adjustment I had to make. Now that I've been out for a couple years, I can see it both ways. I see the advantages of how things are run here, and also I see the advantages of when I was in the military and using that strict order and discipline. And I'm able to use my military skills in that sense of teaching people, right? Showing them the path of, hey, if we try it this way and we're a little more strict and we have these rules and we write everything down and everybody's following it, everybody's on the same page, um, everybody goes home safe at the end of the day. And it's worked out really well, and our team has really adjusted to it. And they've taken my ideas, which has been great too, right? I think that was another thing too was um, will people even want these ideas? Am I like shoving them down their throat because I'm used to the order and discipline? But it's been great. My team and the people I work with really hear my ideas, and they've implemented a lot of them, which I've gotten directly from the Air Force. So, things I learned in ALS, NCO Academy, Senior NCO Academy, some of those basic leadership skills are still used every single day in principle out here in the civilian side, which has been great. And obviously, I'm really happy that I was able to um, learn those skills.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I'm in a executive fire officer course at the National Fire Academy, and within this cohort that I'm in, they're just the best of the best fire chiefs across the nation. But there are some leadership issues that they experience where when they share them, I'm thinking, man, we're so fortunate in the military for the training that we get and the experiences that we get. I think it's attributed to like the high turnover rate. You're constantly being fed kind of a new group of young people that you have to lead and kind of be father and uncle and aunt figures for. And so you get so much great experience with those, some soft skills and some of those disciplinary leadership approaches. And we were talking about this before we recorded that we're so marketable, I think, more maybe than we give ourselves credit for civilian work, for work outside of the Department of Defense.
Yeah, I would say one of the craziest skills that I have and that a lot of fire dogs have that I didn't realize was such an important skill is just being able to have a conversation with people, like a general conversation, or even in a hard situation, a counseling session of some sort, right? We do that, like you said, every single day. There's some sort of problem, and or you're just trying to help somebody out and you're just trying to get general information from them and building that trust and rapport, right? That's part of it that we have. Um, you know, Crew chiefs, station captains, assistant chiefs, everybody's building that trust and rapport, right? I was really shocked on the outside how few people do that, and they just come to work, do their job, and go home. It's really hard to influence change unless you build that trust, and it's really important to build that trust in terms of just getting to know the people you work with and using the skills in the military when you're in those lower levels of the counselings and the building the rapport and the trust pay huge dividends when you get on the outside. And highlighting that in your interview is super important. Letting, the person know, hey, I have those skills. I'm able to talk to people. I'm able to get out from behind my desk. I'm not going to hide behind my desk the whole day. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to get to know the people. I'm going to get to know what they need. And then once that trust builds and the employees trust you, golden. Because, right, then you ask them to do something and they trust you. They know you're doing the right thing and they just do it. There's no fighting. There's no arguing. There's no, I don't want to do that because I don't feel like it. They're like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever you need, let's do it. It all comes down from those soft skills we get in the military.
Yeah, it's excellent, brother. Well, I want to talk about Mason now. I want to give you an opportunity to highlight Mason. Again, you highlighted him in Coffee Break episode 3. We recorded that. I look back July 2020. So man,
Yeah.
it has been almost 6 years
Yep.
now, if my math is right.
Yep.
And you shared that story, heart-wrenching story. I want to give you an opportunity to share it again if you're comfortable, and also talk to us about how you are honoring his legacy. And then I want to know, you kind of alluded to it early on in your introduction, but how that experience kind of shaped your future.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks again for letting me share his story. Yeah. It's crazy because Mason had only passed maybe a month and a half. I was scheduled to go on your show before Mason passed, so I didn't want to break the commitment. You were very kind and like, no, we don't have to do it. But it was just important for me. I wanted to, keep my commitment in that sense. So, but my son Mason was 7 years old. We were stationed at Mount Home Air Force Base. Right at the beginning of COVID, he got sick with an illness called ADEM, ADEM, and it's basically a neuro immune disease. He got it from having pneumonia. He had pneumonia. We had no idea. Wasn't showing any signs or symptoms really. A little cough, and that was it. You wouldn't think it was anything but a little cold. He was still playing, still active. Everything was going great. One day, my wife called me. He was getting a little worse. So I took him to the ER. We found out he had pneumonia. To give him some antibiotics, and we were on our way home. I was actually on shift that day. Someone was covering me, so after I got back from the ER, I dropped him off at home, make sure everyone was good, and I was driving back to the station. And my wife called me back, and she said it looked like he was having some sort of seizure. Called 911, went to the hospital. Basically, they could not figure it out. He ended up coming out of that first seizure, and we got checked out by some neurologists, and they legit just could not figure out what was wrong with him. So we went home. Next day, the exact same thing happens. Same thing. When I say seizure, don't think like he's like pulsating or anything like that. He is just blank stare. Eyes are open, but not responding to anything, not moving, nothing like that. This time he gets life flighted over to Boise and gets put in the PQ. Um, from there, he basically never came out of it. The condition is typically survivable with high dose steroids, but by the time they caught it, it was too late, and he ended up becoming brain dead 3 days later. So obviously, the most difficult time in my life, my family's life. He was my third of four boys, and super hard. The grief that you go through, I cannot even explain it to people. It's only something that I hope none of you ever have to deal with, and you'll only understand if you do deal with it. And very intense. I went into a deep, deep depression. Um, I had people taking care of me the whole time. Chief Kruger, who's retired now, he was solid rock for me. He was my chief at Mountain Home, took care of me. I ended up getting orders to Dover Air Force Base on humanitarian because it was about 7 hours from where we had Mason buried. Closest base we could get to. Dover team was great. They took care of me. But really, I was in a depression, right? They threw me in as AC training. I did what I could, but I was pretty messed up. I was very sad and very depressed, crying all the time. I ended up I ended up making senior. There's no senior billet there, so they asked me if I wanted to go over to the IG, and I thought it was a good idea. I didn't want to move again or anything like that. So once my humanitarian orders were up, so I did the move over to the IG. IG team there is amazing. They took care of me. I learned so much being part of the IG and learning what compliance is and how to write specific reports and all that. It was a great, great experience. Um, Ended up getting orders to Spangdahlem. Those ended up getting canceled, and then had some orders to New Mexico. Um, Basically said I didn't want that. I think I'm done now. So put in the retirement orders, got it, and headed out. So we had Mason buried in Buffalo, New York. We didn't want him. We weren't going to leave him in Idaho because we didn't have any ties there. So we had him buried with some family members, and Ended up retiring, coming back here to Buffalo, and we visit him all the time, and it's been hard. We really wanted to honor his legacy. We ended up starting the Miles for Mason Memorial Foundation. So that's a nonprofit that we've been working on for some years now. And the main goal of that nonprofit is to um, train ER doctors. So, like I said, it was too late before they finally figured out what had happened to Mason. The damage was already done to his brain. There really was no coming back to it. So, um, we really feel, and after talking to other neurologists, it's just a disease that isn't talked about very often. And so in our nonprofit, we have some doctors that help us, and we're writing courses for ER doctors, specifically doctors that might not see this ever. So rural doctors or suburban doctors that don't see these types of things all the time. And just like we go through classes all the time, doctors have to go through continuing education that they get credit for. And that's our goal as our nonprofit. We want to make sure these doctors are getting trained on what ADEM is so other families don't have to go through this in the long run. And we've been making great strides and really having some success. And we really feel like the momentum in 2026 for us is going to pick up, and we're going to have hopefully 2 classes by the end of the year. That's our goal.
Man, how excellent is that? I didn't realize that you were doing that. Yeah, teaching doctors on how to identify this illness. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I wanted to. I feel like the more people that know about it, to be able to highlight the organization that you created, the nonprofit, but also just to honor his life. I feel like the more you share it, the more that you honor him. So thank you again for sharing that. And you mentioned that it really did kind of change the trajectory of your career and got you back to Buffalo, New York. So, which kind of brings us to our topic on the career that you transitioned into.
Right.
So let's get into that transition out of the military then. You mentioned a lot of things to me in our correspondence, how to prepare, what things you should do, what people should focus on, how soon you should start preparing. Where do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is people often think they can only go to like a federal career when you get out of the military. It seems like to be like a big goal with a lot of people, right? They only want to go federal, but you'd be surprised what's out there when you do some searches out there of the need for emergency planners, emergency management, or EHS. And so you shouldn't really limit yourself to just federal only. I think one of the biggest mistakes, I don't want to say even a mistake, but um, preparation is so important, right? I was definitely preparing, but I think I could have been even more prepared had I taken more time. And I'm talking like you should start thinking 2 to 3 years out. Like, hey, what do I need? And you should lay a calendar out and literally month to month, what do I need to get done this month? And it seems silly, like 3 years out, I'm actually planning for this. But some of these things you need to do take a lot of time. I would definitely highlight, and specifically in the EHS world, right? It's not impossible to get an EHS job without a degree, by just having our certifications. But I would definitely say if you have a degree, a bachelor's or a master's degree in safety of some sort, and there's lots of different degrees, so you don't have to limit yourself to one, or even an associate's degree. It's going to take time to do those degrees and knock them out. You're going to look that much more marketable. I definitely think the one thing I could have done that would have helped me a lot more was using my Air Force Cool certification. Man, if I would have did that, I would have been golden. I really know that even though I had a master's degree in safety, because once I decided, okay, this might be a route I want to go, I got into it right away and I knocked all my classes out. But man, if I would have used that Air Force School certification, it would have been easy. I would have instantly got hired. I know it for sure. So definitely look into that, right? Look into the different careers you want and use that Air Force School. What an amazing benefit. I promise you, you will not regret using that tool. It is awesome.
What specifically for your career path would Air Force School help with?
So for my career path, there would have been the Associate Safety Professional, ASP, or a Certified Safety Professional, CSP. Uh, it's probably costs around $1,500 to take the test. And, I should have used it. I could do it now, obviously, I pay out of pocket, but it's just that I was really shocked on the LinkedIn side and the career side that sometimes certifications are worth more than degrees. Like, you having that certification makes you look that much better. So definitely consider using that tool. To make yourself more marketable. Because really what it comes down to, right, is doing a quick review of your resume. They're not going to know you or learn you until you get into that interview. And if your resume isn't strong enough, they're not going to know how awesome you are unless they talk to you, right? And they're not going to talk to you unless that resume is strong enough. So building that strong resume is super important, especially with the degrees and the certifications. They make a big deal.
You mentioned starting to transition 2 to 3 years out. If I'm 3 years out, if I'm 5 years out, what are some of the things I should look towards or plan for with that transition? What should I start doing? You mentioned Air Force School. You mentioned degrees.
Yep.
Is that kind of what you were alluding to?
Well, I actually really think you should go to TAPS as early as possible. I mean, you can go to TAPS every year if you want, and it'll give you a ton of information on things to be ready for. It's crazy. When I went to TAPS, I had people that were getting out in a month or two, and they had no preparation. They weren't ready at all. Um, Going to TAPS early is really important. It really sets some of those calendar things in place of what you need to be ready for. Um, because it's really shocking uh, how much more difficult it is on the outside. When you're in the military, you have an umbrella protecting you from everything. You got healthcare, you got your money coming in, you got everything you need. Once you're done, those things are gone. Okay, you have to figure it out all on your own. You don't have a commander or a first sergeant or a supervisor to run to for help. You are all by yourself, and if you're not ready, you're already way behind the curve here. You're going to put yourself and your family at some risk. And is that risk really worth it when you could be planning right now? You can take those 2, 3 years, get everything you need, go to TAPS, see what TAPS says. Another important thing that you could do is talk to your commander and supervisor pretty early about skill bridge. Not everybody gets skill bridge, right? It's not a guarantee. You're best to know up front whether you're going to get it or not. Um, I did a skill bridge, awesome, loved it. It was great. I did 4 months with a company doing corporate EHS items, helped them with their first aid planning and emergency planning. It was great. Um, I'm glad I had that opportunity because it really set me up for success. I understood what the career was like outside. I understood what civilian life was like because it is so much different out here compared to being in the military. Um, but because it's not guaranteed for everyone, you got to make a plan, right? Because what if you're not going to get it? Okay, well then I got to have another plan. I got to pivot. I got to be flexible. I got to make sure I know what I'm doing here. So
Talk to me about how LinkedIn did or did not help you.
yeah, LinkedIn is great. And, I learned a lot about LinkedIn from my skill bridge and from TAPS, actually. LinkedIn is a great way that you could start looking for jobs now. You can start applying for jobs now while you're still in the military. You can get your resume ready, apply for a job, see if someone bites on it, gives you a good idea. Hey, this resume is going to work, or no, it's not working at all. One of the most important things I actually learned from TAPS was start applying right away, and do interviews, even if you're not going to take the job. I know it sounds kind of shady, but that was what I was taught in TAPS. Do interviews now because you're going to start to see a repetitive questions that come in every single interview. If the very first time you hear that question, you're going to be mumbling through the answer. But by the 10th time, you basically have the question memorized. They all basically ask a lot of the same questions. By the 10th time, you are ready to go. You can answer that question. You have it memorized. You know exactly how you want to answer it. You got specifics of how you were able to do it, how you did it while you were in the military. Makes a big deal. And it all really comes from LinkedIn. Like that LinkedIn, super important. All you people on that are listening that have a LinkedIn, get your military picture off of there. They hate that. I'm telling you right now. Okay. It's awesome while you're in. They don't want it when you're in the civilian side. Get a picture, use Portraits for Patriots. It's a free nonprofit that'll give you a free headshot and get a picture on there of you in civilian clothes.
That's funny. I wonder what the perception is there.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but I've actually talked to some HR people, and they have actually told me, they actually really
That's
don't
annoying.
like that.
That's
So,
so funny. It's just one of those things that, we have no clue about.
right,
That's the only official photo that I had. I could take a selfie,
right.
and throw it on there.
Well, and actually, they do recommend that. Like, hey,
Do they?
use AI to your advantage now, right? You can
Oh,
make
okay.
a picture of yourself looking professional and
Sure.
of some sort, or have a family member take a picture for you. Doesn't have to be professional. Now, if you want to go the professional route, like I said, Portraits for Patriots, awesome organization. I went and did that. I got a free headshot, suit and tie, and that was my LinkedIn
Hmm.
picture. Another thing I learned on LinkedIn, there's uh, an option on there where you can get recommendations from people, right? So what I did is I added that, and then I called a bunch of chiefs, fire chiefs, deputy fire chiefs, assistant chiefs I knew, and asked them, "Hey, would you mind going on my LinkedIn and giving me a recommendation?" And I had a bunch that did. And basically now I have recruiters reaching out to me all the time, like, "Hey, do you want this job? Hey, we have this job in your area. Are you interested in doing an interview for this job?" It all comes down from LinkedIn. That LinkedIn is super important because once you get in the civilian side, you get a job, you keep building on that, right? You keep adding your certifications, you keep getting more recommendations, you post every now and then. People see that you're active on there, recruiters see that you're active on there, and they're going to start reaching out to you. It's like, "Hey, would you consider doing this interview?" A lot of times when you get out of the military, that might not be your forever job, the first job you take. It might just be like a transition job. Hey, this is just I got to make sure I keep getting paid. Might not be your dream job, okay? But LinkedIn is going to help you in that sense of now I can keep searching, and now people can search for me and find me, and I can find that dream job that I want in the long run.
Man, those are some excellent LinkedIn tips, but I appreciate those personally.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I need to do some work on mine. Another thing that I like to tell people when it comes to LinkedIn, and there's a lot of people that aren't on it, but for those that are, and if you're not on it, and I don't know, you're not sure about what the future holds for you, and you're not going to stick around in the federal government, as a fire service member or whatever, you need to get one. You really do. Just again, how we said in the beginning of the episode, you just don't know what opportunities lie ahead of you, right? And you don't know what your limitations might be. Maybe there's a hiring freeze. Like the federal government is just a unpredictable ecosystem. But one thing I like to tell people is go search for people that you admire or positions that you want to be in, right? If I want to be a civilian fire chief, let's just say Denver, Colorado, for example, like go and look at the Denver, Colorado fire chief's LinkedIn profile. What does that person have on their profile? And then go and compare it to other fire chiefs across the nation or other firefighters or other environmental health and safety professionals or financial planners, financial managers, if that's the career path that you're wanting to go to, entrepreneurs. See what they're putting on there. See what kind of credentials they have that you could use Air Force Cool for, or that you need to go and pursue. That's something that I've done. And what I learned as someone who aspires to be in public safety and really aspires to be a fire chief is that fire chiefs have executive fire officer, they have chief fire officer credential from SIPC, and most of them have a master's degree, right? So if that's something that I want to do, I'm already kind of at a disadvantage in being a federal firefighter. If I wanted to cross over the threshold into the civilian side, I have to have those big three things to even probably get my foot in the door and get that phone call for an interview like you'd mentioned.
Right.
So go and look at profiles of people that you want their job, you want a job like theirs, and try to do what they do as far as credentialing and professional education and all that goes.
I'll take it one step further. Message them on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, I'm aspiring to have a job like yours one day. Would you be willing to help me out?" And you'd be shocked how many of them say, "Yes, what can I help you with?" And they'll give you so much guidance and free mentorship. You're going to build a friendship and your networking, right? So maybe one day there's a job in a suburb of that city and they know you want to come to that city and they're like, "Hey, I can hook you up here. Let's get you an interview at least," right? So take that LinkedIn account, and that goes for everything, right? I did that a lot. I didn't know what kind of EHS job I wanted, and I reached out to a bunch of different people just to get their perspectives on the job. And I just said, what is the good and what is the bad? And they were very honest with me, and it was great. It was very awesome. People want to help you on LinkedIn. I haven't found me personally. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm gonna say me personally though. Everyone I've asked for help on LinkedIn has helped me, and you can get that help too very easily.
Man, another great piece of advice, man. You're really dropping some knowledge
Hey,
today.
trying.
I love it. I wanted to bring up interviews too, and this is just something that I've done in the past. And of course, I've only interviewed within the Air Force. You know, there's job opportunities that come up that are outside of the fire department, and sometimes they'll hold interview processes. Sometimes they hold below the zone boards. Sometimes they hold boards for awards. It's a good practice to get into to prepare for interviews now while you're in the military, maybe for opportunities like that. But one thing I did, I haven't been in an interview in a long time, so this could not be as relevant anymore, but I think it just stays relevant all the time, is make a cheat sheet. I made a 2-sided cheat sheet. And you had mentioned that you kind of get asked the same questions in interviews all the time. Well, there's a lot of themes, I think, with interviews and with questions like, what are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? What's a problem that you did not solve, a problem that you did solve, something that you're proud of? They want to know who you are personally, not necessarily exclusively professionally in some cases, right? What kind of person am I bringing into my organization? And just think through those things, write them down, practice an introduction statement. They're always going to ask, well, do you have anything for us at the end, right? Write down what you have for them at the end. Well, thank you for the opportunity for this interview. Blah, 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 blah. Write it out. You know, I would
Right.
literally sometimes write it out, and maybe you don't hit every word that you've written out, but at least you've kind of went through it in your brain. You went through the mental exercise of preparing for that moment. And I would even bring it with me to an interview and practice my body language while sitting in the chair. And, you know, you want to bring something to write with, right? So you put it on the notebook that you have that you want to write on. And here's your cheat sheet. Let me just reference it real quick and answer this question. So just wanted to throw that out there while the
Yep.
opportunity kind of presented itself, is think through the things and don't be surprised when it comes to interviews.
Yeah, I would say that's perfect. You should write it out. You should, when you go to TAPS and if you end up doing a skill bridge, a lot of skill bridge teach you to learn your elevator pitch, right? You got 20 seconds to tell somebody who you are. How are you going to do that? If you got to do it on the fly, it's a lot more difficult than if you write it out and you practice it a bunch of times in your head. Like you said, it's not going to be the exact every single time, but it's pretty darn close. And because of that, you're ready. You're more prepared in that sense. I also say too, when you go to an interview, have some questions for them. A lot of times they're going to say, "Well, do you have any questions for us?" And I've only been in a couple interviews since I've been out of the military, but I absolutely hate when they say, "Yeah, I got nothing." It almost feels like they don't care as much, or they didn't read the job posting, or they don't want to know. They just want the job, right? If you really care, read the job posting, right? Write a couple of questions down that they have to answer for you. And it's not going to be like, "Hey, what am I going to get paid?" No, more like, "Hey, what's the atmosphere like? How are the managers? How For the EHS side, a question that I've been taught to ask is like, how does the plant deal with safety? Are they for it or do they fight it? Right? Because some places they're not all about safety. So be willing to ask those tough questions too. The interviewer is really going to like when you actually show that you care and show that you want to be part of that world.
Yeah, another thing is I want to make sure that this is the right position for me
Right.
and that this is a good marriage. So, you know, on that, like, let me ask questions as related to the culture and to, you know, hey, are they going to fight me? Am I up against any hurdles? You know, that I think that's excellent advice.
Yeah, it definitely helps out. Um, Another thing I really wanted to make sure I hit on before, I don't know how much time we have left, but utilizing nonprofits for your success as you're getting out. There is a ton of nonprofits out there that want to help transitioning veterans. I personally used American Corporate Partners, ACP, and I also used Hire Heroes USA and Hiring Our Heroes. That was actually my skill bridge, Hiring Our Heroes. Um, American Corporate Partners is going to set you up with a mentor, a 1-year mentorship with somebody in a career or very close, similar career that you want to have. That's a civilian already, or they've never been in the military. A lot of them have never been in the military. And they're going to just guide you with some of those civilian questions that you're not sure. Hey, what do I wear when I go to work? Um, That's a very difficult question.
Man,
Wear
that's a
the same
tough one, dude.
uniform.
That is yeah, if you're an institutionalized
Right,
guy as you and I were,
right.
wow. I had mentioned, being in the executive fire officer course at the National Fire Academy, and leading up to that, I was 2 weeks in residence, right? I'm like, what do I wear, man?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
do I wear
And
jeans?
the funny thing
Do I
is,
even
like,
have clothes? Like, I have a bunch of uniforms.
that's the thing, like, do I even have all the, business attire I need to go to the outside, right? That stuff is expensive, and sometimes you gotta pace it out a little bit on when you're gonna buy it. Hey, every paycheck, I'm gonna buy a couple pieces of business attire so that when I get out, I'm ready to go. I learned that in ACP. That was one of the things my mentor taught me, like, "Hey, don't try and buy it all at once. You're gonna spend a lot of money. Buy a little bit here and there. Start building up so that when you get out, you're ready to go," you know? It's a great program, ACP. I do it now. I'm a mentor now. I've mentored 3 people as they've been transitioning out. I see it from a different view because I've seen their side and now I've seen my side on the civilian side. So it's been great, but it's a great nonprofit that you could use. Hiring Heroes USA is great. They helped me write my first resume. I had no idea what to do. Um, I know they were EPRs when I was in. What are they, EPBs now or something like that?
EPBs now. Yeah,
EPBs
I'm sure
now.
it'll be something
So
different in a few years.
yeah, so they took all my EPRs at the time and they wrote me a resume,
Hmm.
and it was great. Had no idea really how to go with it, and they took all of my skills and abilities and they reworded it into a civilian resume that really helped me out. Um, couldn't talk highly enough of them as well. They
Hmm.
also helped me with some mock interviews. So I did probably 3 or 4 mock interviews with hiring professionals, just to get an idea of, hey, again, going into an interview blind is very difficult. So having those mock interviews really helped me out to be ready for the real world interviews that were going to be coming.
Yeah, man. Another excellent line of advice there. Wounded Warrior Project, I believe, does something similar where they'll connect you with some resume building kind of institution or prepare you for transition outside of the service. I was just pitched the Wounded Warrior by a Wounded Warrior person yesterday, and so that's kind of fresh on my mind. Yeah, cool. Yeah, to answer your question on how much time we got, man, no pressure at
Okay.
all. As much time as you want. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into what you are doing specifically. So maybe somebody is interested in this environmental health and safety career path, and you touched a lot on the interview process, the resumes, building the resumes. First of all, remind us who you work for, what that experience is like, what the day-to-day might look like, and you alluded to it earlier, but how what we do now in the Air Force Fire Service kind of translates.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Eaton. I work in the aerospace division here in Orchard Park, New York. Awesome company. Can't speak highly enough of 'em. Super amazing. And like I said, being in the aerospace side, we build a lot of different parts for aircraft and in the DoD and for NASA, and then also some civilian aircraft parts as well. So, uh, great experience. And being on the EHS side, I didn't really know what to expect. But like I said, great manager who really set me up for success. Obviously, the first thing I dove right into right away was emergency preparedness and really preparing for that. And it you kind of become an emergency planner, right? That was the first thing I really worked on. Okay, if a fire drill happens or if a fire emergency happens, if we have an active shooter, how are people going to respond? If we need to lock down, different types of security things that we deal with on a limited level there in the fire service. But super easy to translate that over to the civilian side, and really just kind of writing those plans out and then doing drills, doing practices, right? We practice all the time in the fire world for different types of emergencies. Well, we do the same thing in the civilian side. We got to practice with the plant, make sure people know how to do a fire drill, make sure they know what to do when it comes time to shelter in place, make sure they know how to respond to emergency communications when they're sent out. So that was my first kind of real bite at on the EHS side. From there, help by jumping in with the confined space side, helping write the plans. Um, Now it's different, right? On the fire side, we're talking about rescues, right? Where on the civilian side, we're talking about, hey, what are we doing before we even go into the confined space to do any kind of
Yeah, kind
eh,
of getting upstream
right,
of a
exactly.
potential problem, like I'd mentioned earlier.
Right. But the best part is I kind of already it's the same kind of planning for an emergency, right? Before we go in, we're making sure everybody's safe, we have everything roped off, we're checking the air, we're doing all the same things on the emergency side as we do on the pre-planning side. So it was really easy to translate a lot of that. Um I run the first aid team here. We do drills every single month. We do classes every single month. Same like when we were doing in the fire station every single day, right? Monthly training that's required. Uh, Super important. We want to keep people active in those skills. You don't use them, you lose them, right? You forget how to do it, and that's the important part. I want to say this upcoming week we're doing a class on tourniquets and what to do with that. So a lot of the same skills that I was using in the military, I'm able to use over on the EHS side. Hazardous material safety, hazmat safety. We have hazardous waste that we have to deal with a specific way. So that was newer for me, right? Dealing with hazardous waste. But after going through the classes, most of the materials I learned are the same as hazmat tech, right? We're doing the exact same thing. It's just a different um, part in the process overall. Like we're not responding to the emergency, we're preparing it to be sent out properly, and meeting all the rules and regulations that we're supposed to for the state and the federal government. So uh, a lot of the skills are really transferable if you're able to be flexible and not just stick only on the emergency side and think that way. You have to be able to learn and grow with those types of skills.
Yeah, a lot of parallels with fire inspection, fire prevention stuff too.
Correct. Yes, definitely. I do a monthly fire prevention walk through the plant. Hey, what am I looking for? What is there? Um, Checking for electrical safety. Is there daisy chaining? Is there something plugged in that shouldn't be plugged in? Um, and there's also a lot of like, hey, okay, something did happen. Now we actually have to respond, right? I'll have to use myself with my team. We'll go as a first aid team. We'll help somebody if they get hurt. We got to do the incident reports. We got to do the reporting. We got to send it up. We got to report recordables to OSHA if we have those, which obviously is our main goal to never have those. So, and really just keeping people safe at the end of the day and showing them that we care, just like you do on the fire ground.
I don't know if you're familiar with Darren Gould.
Yep.
He is retired Master Sergeant, Air Force Fire Senior Master Sergeant Select. I'd like to give him credit for that.
Yep.
But he does something similar for Georgia Power,
Right.
I believe. I should have him on and talk about his experience too. But
Right.
and I'm sure that there's others out there too. It's very translatable to what we do, and I'd say that we're great fits for those opportunities.
We are, yeah. Like I said, like my longtime goal when I was active was to stay in the fire service, but just like could happen to any of you that are listening, things might change, and that might not be the path that you're able to take. Set yourself up for success. Diversify yourself. Be ready to go with, hey, I want to be a fire chief one day, but if that doesn't work, maybe I could jump into this career field, or another career field that was really easily to jump into. More that I've seen it is the HR side. Maybe that's something that you're interested as well. I've met a lot of supervisors and chiefs, deputy fire chiefs, ACs that go into the HR side because we're used to dealing with people every single day. And that's what HR is. You're dealing with people and their problems every single day, and you're trying to help them with those problems. So just another career path to think about.
Yeah, what great leadership experience we get in the military, and then the fire service.
Right.
I think the fire service breeds great leaders too.
Right.
We're kind of getting the double whammy. I can't speak highly enough of the opportunity we have to be able to lead people and how translatable that is to life.
100%. Yes. Every single day. And, we've had life experiences that people just cannot understand. They don't get the sacrifice, the difficulty that's been put on the family, and uh, being in the civilian side, it's awesome in the sense of uh, just that new life, that new experience, and people seeing how happy we are and how great it is, and people when you tell them about your story in the military and what the military is like, sometimes people are like, "Oh, I actually don't have it so bad. It's not as bad as I thought." So, not that I had a bad career, I had an amazing
Right.
career. I
Right.
loved when I say every second,
Same.
I loved every second of my career. But that doesn't mean there's not awesome parts of being on the civilian side as well.
Yeah, it's challenging in the military, you know, altogether. I mean, moving and uprooting your family, people, it's hard for people to understand that. Um, It's funny. I keep bringing up EFO, but in this cohort, they're like, so what do you do in the Air Force exactly? I'm like, guys, I'm a firefighter. Like, I mean, like I know the stuff that you know. It's just fire department within the department. It's kind of funny the perception, I guess, of people
Right.
that aren't exposed to the military. And so to kind of go back to your LinkedIn and preparing for interviews and resumes and things like that, it's really important to remember that if you do want to cross over from federal to something non-federal, that people just don't understand, and you can't expect them to if they haven't
Right.
been in the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, they really don't understand, and, it kinda brings me up to a topic I wanted to talk to. I think I wrote it on my list for you, is, um, when you transition out of the military, it's really hard from going 100 miles per hour in the military to basically 0, nothing, right? And I will say that I definitely struggled with it. I was, uh you're just so used to the structure and the life of it. When you leave it, it's really difficult. And this isn't everyone, but for me it was. And I really found that finding other organizations, military organizations per se, when you get out can be helpful, right? Like the American Legion, VFW, other military support groups. I didn't think I would miss the life as much as I did. I'll say now that I'm almost 3 years retired, it's not as intense as in the beginning. But to be honest, the military was my identity. I joined at 17. I left like a day after being 18. It's all I knew up until my 40s, right? So leaving it, I felt a giant hole. Like, who am I now? If I'm not Senior Master Sergeant Lopardi of the United States Air Force, who the heck am I now? And I struggled with it. My first year was very difficult. You go from helping everyone to, yeah, you're by yourself now. Good luck. Have fun. That's how it is. And those organizations can really be helpful. I would say for me, I've tried all of them. I like my VFW here. It's really great. But I've had more success actually with veterans in my company, connecting with them because I see them more often and we're able to share stories and our paths, and we have that kind of connection, and we have that banter too, right? I'm always making fun of the Marines. They're always saying I do nothing in the Air Force, those types of things, but it's fun. It's all in good fun, and it's made the transition easier.
Are you rocking that OIF hat and the Air Force retiree hat?
I have the retiree hat. I haven't. I don't wear it very often, but every now and then I'll throw it down. But I don't have the OIF hat.
Heck yeah, man. I do. I see those guys, and I think that and when you're in it, when we're all institutionalized, but when you're in it, you don't. I don't think we appreciate that feeling when you're not in it anymore.
Right.
And I'm being in the twilight of my career. I'm already kind of thinking about that, like, oh, this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
You're the center of the world as an active duty military member. Everybody's kind of at your beck and call. You get the front of the line at the pharmacy, and
Right.
you get the discounts at the restaurants, and you go to the front of the line for any kind of medical need. And when it's over, man, I imagine that that's you're not as important anymore. We got to worry about those who are on the front lines of our nation, which is understandable, but
It is.
that has to be a big blow to the identity.
It is. It's a huge blow. It brought its own type of grief, if I'm honest with you. It's a grief that's probably not talked about very often. And maybe it's just for people that have been in a long time. Maybe this doesn't hit those first term um, enlisted people or anyone as hard as somebody that's been in 15, 20 years. But getting out, like it really was difficult in the sense of I had that grief I was dealing with Mason, and now on top of it, I had to throw in the grief of, hey, my whole life just changed. Basically, you hear the stories. Your final out is like less than 10 minutes. 22 years, and you walk in, and they sign a piece of paper, and you basically walk out the door, and you're a free person. You can do whatever you want now, and it's super hard. It's way harder than I thought it would be. So
Released from prison.
yeah, released from prison. That's a good way to put it. And
Yeah.
it
A very nice prison.
a very nice prison that gives you everything you want and need, amazing friends and all that. But yeah, it's a blow to the ego. It's a blow to the identity, and you have to basically start to build your new life. So I guess that's a good thing to think, like, hey, don't be shocked if that happens to you. but lean on those that, have already gone through it. Like, I'm sure everyone that is maybe listening has some friends that have already gotten out of the military, and you can lean on them. You can talk to them. Like I said, I have a bunch of retired chiefs that I leaned on during that time and talked to them, and they helped guide me through it. And I feel fine now. There's definitely things I do not miss about the military. It's been great being out and not having to worry about it as I watch it on the news and you guys all having to deal with it. But there's, the things that you're always gonna miss, like the table talk, being at the kitchen table at the station, the late night playing games with the team, and the drills, the hard times. It's not the same on the outside. It's just not, unfortunately. And you got to lean on your family on that case when you're on the outside, and your true friends. Because I'll honestly say that uh, no job is better than being a firefighter in the Air Force. I will always say that till the day I die. That was the best career I ever had, and I love it and I miss it.
I'll always share that message. Any opportunity I get is to appreciate where you are right now.
Right.
I just was at a department just a few weeks ago, and given the opportunity to share messages and to answer questions or whatever. And the one piece that I gave, we talked a lot, but the one most important thing that I wanted to tell them was appreciate the place that you are right now, and the friendships that you have and the opportunity that you have to hop on the truck, because it's going to be some of the best times of your life, at least your professional career.
Right.
And really have gratitude for where you are right now. It's hard to hear and to process, I think, probably when you're young, because I'm sure,
right. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I still remember the last time I jumped on Cheap 2 for an actual call where, and had a blast. Like, I was doing my job, I was doing what I loved, and I'll never forget it. Awesome experience, just my whole career, and even better people. Like, the people make your career. It wasn't any one department. Just everybody I've met throughout my career, and how awesome everyone is, and how just amazing our career field is. We get to help people, and we get to really live the dream. Enjoy every second of it. It's just amazing life, and you're gonna miss it more than you realize, I think.
Well, Chris, that's, I think, a good way to end it, brother. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and share your experiences in transition, to share Mason's story, and to share the career that you're in now and the experiences that you had to see success in that. I'm really happy to see that you are seeing success and that you did take advantage of the opportunities that the military presented, and you got squared away and got yourself a nice career in Western New York. So I think that's a good way to end it, though. Do you got anything else for us?
Yeah, hey, I just want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you for the opportunity. This is an amazing resource that people should be using regularly to stay connected to the career. And if anybody ever needs anything, hit me up on LinkedIn. Always willing to help. And thank you again for the opportunity.
My pleasure, brother. And one last thing, where can people find Miles for Mason, and any other places they can maybe find you, LinkedIn or email, whatever?
Yeah, so milesformasonmemorial.com is the website, and we're also on all the normal social media. Just search Miles for Mason Memorial Foundation, and we'll pop up. And any help we can get, we'll make sure it goes to a good cause. So thank you for that.
All right, Chris, you have a good one, man.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FireDawg Podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice. It's one of the best ways to help us reach more firefighters and leaders across the fire service. This episode was supported by Roll Call Coins, telling the stories of fire departments and teams through premium custom challenge coins. Learn more at rollcallcoins.com. It was also supported by AOS, helping fire departments stay mission ready with worldwide firefighting equipment compliance. Find out more at aosservicesinc.com. You can find more episodes at firedawg.us or wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at the FireDawg Podcast. That is the FireDawg Podcast. Sharing this episode with friends, coworkers, or someone within your firehouse helps these conversations reach the people who would benefit most. This is Matt Wilson with guest Chris Lopardi. Until next time, stay safe.